Hello and welcome back to the Cronecast at the Rising Moon. Today I have a timeless pick a card for you about a healing journey. This is how do I forgive and who do I need to forgive? This might be a difficult type of reading because it's going to be digging into past issues that you have had difficulty releasing. And please understand, we all have difficulty releasing the slights, the burdens, the hurt, the trauma of the past. This pick a card seeks to help you with that journey. There are piles 1 through 4. You're going to have a moment here which is silent where you can concentrate on the cards, see which pile calls out to you. It is possible more than one pile will contain a message for you, so pay attention to that. Kind of close your eyes, breathe deeply, open them, see which one kind of stands out to you, and again, that's the message you're most meant to receive. There will be timestamps in the description box down below as well. I will see you at the time of your reading. Welcome back. If you chose pile number 1, then this is your reading. We're putting number 1 over there so that people can easily fast forward to your reading. This is the Magical Nordic deck. I did a little bit of shuffling off camera because I'm using very large decks today. I don't know why I just felt called to. So I did a little bit of pre-shuffling, but we're going to also do some shuffling on camera. This is for pile number 1. Who do they need to forgive and how can they forgive? And what do they need to forgive? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm using an infinity spread. I often do. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Guys, before I get started, please don't forget to subscribe. It helps my channel. If you like the reading, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. If you want to book me for a private reading, there's a link to my website in the description box down below. It's the only way to book me. I need to reiterate here, this might be touching on some old wounds. So if you feel yourself being overwhelmed or it's touching into something that you're like, I'm not ready, please bail. Only do this when you're in the space to be like, hey, I want to get my work done. I want to continue on this path, but I'm having trouble with releasing it. And we all do sometimes. We all do. Some of the slights of the past can be very, very overwhelming indeed. So please don't think you're ever being criticized or scolded when you're told there's still something you need to release from the past so that you can move forward into your highest self, into your best future, and onto your best path. All right, let's get going here. All right, I have the 3 of Pentacles in reverse. Boy, it's somebody who made you feel very powerless. With the 6 of Pentacles in the upright, which is that's a balanced state. It can be very good give and take. With the King of Pentacles in reverse, the Wheel of Fortune in the upright. This looks like it's a financial matter. Yep, Ace of Pentacles in reverse. The 7 of Wands in reverse. I will explain the cards in just a moment. 2 Swords in reverse. And then I have the Page of Swords in reverse. And here are my 2 clarifiers, which is how an infinity spread works. All right, so the background of the situation is it looks like somebody cheated you. This is a very financial energy. And it does look as if the person has their own issues, that they may have an underlying depression issue. The King of Pentacles in reverse is frequently about depression. It can also be a demonic influence, such as an addiction. But somebody made you feel very powerless in a financial matter. It could have been in a divorce situation where they cheated you. It made you feel very undervalued. It looks like a battle. The 7 of Wands in the upright is the card of overcoming. It's the triumph over adversity card. In reverse, it is often the battles that you know not to engage in, or quite frankly, the battles that you did not quite win. Like you fought valiantly and it wasn't a loss, but you didn't quite win. It made something very clear to you that was very difficult for you. You felt incredibly undervalued. And apparently they've never apologized nor admitted any remorse, which happens so very frequently. It could be a family matter. It could be a romantic matter. You've struggled with it. It's difficult because everything here, remember, this is the underlying issue area. This is the story. Every card in here interrelates. If you don't know how to read an infinity spread, kind of don't worry about it. But every card talks to the other, essentially. That's why the Mobius strip of the infinity sign is here. Listen, here's the thing. It involves money. And I need you to understand something. You can always make more money. If you haven't yet, know that it's the key word here is yet, because your outcome card contains the Wheel of Fortune. But it does look like it really laid you low, and it made you kind of doubt other people quite a bit. It really may have caused a persistent depression. Please remember that getting out into the sun is very important. Vitamin D deficiency can really contribute to depression. When we talk about forgiveness, I need people to understand something and hear something. It is never about saying what you did was okay, but it is saying, I have closed that door. That energy no longer defines me, and I release any tie to you so that I can move forward unencumbered, free in my most powerful energy, not being defined by what you did or didn't do for me. And that's really what it's about. It really has nothing to do with absolving the other person of blame or shame, or their karma takes care of all of that. It is you releasing something from your energy, and it can involve looking at somebody and seeing the wounds that they also have. We are all products of our environment. Even if somebody just did the slimiest thing ever to you, and it looks like they were just creeps about money. Even if they did the slimiest thing ever and they were motivated by greed and they lost all sense of decency and reason, which a little bit looks like is what happened, that does not define you going forward. And it had nothing to do with your merit or your worth. Even if it felt like, and if you still suffer from it today, again, please just continue to ask for the intervention of your guides, your guardians, your ancestors, and your angels to help you recoup your losses. But it doesn't look like there's any point in looking to this source for remorse or contrition. The person may not be capable of it. It's very clear that they may not be capable of it. Everything is going to come out in a balanced state for you regardless. I take it it's taking more time and it's been weighing on you quite a bit. There's information coming to you shortly about how your world is going to expand. If you feel like you've been in this very limited energy where you feel a little bit defined by how you were thwarted and how you feel like you might be failing, Ace of Pentacles in reverse with the Three of Pentacles in reverse, that is not what was happening. Your guides did block you. They have been blocking you because you needed to heal. You needed to find the best version of yourself again. And I think in the aftermath, you really struggled. You struggled with anger and resentment at times, and you didn't want to. I think it's against your base nature. I think every time you went anywhere near it, it kind of knocked you off balance, and you had to make the choice to surrender it to the divine, which is what forgiveness really is. Sometimes the best you can achieve is indifference towards the other person, and not in that kind of spiteful, you'll get yours type of way, although, they're going to get theirs. They always get theirs. Everything comes back to you. And that is why you deserve to move forward in the clearest and the strongest energy, knowing that that person, if they didn't see your worth, that's their loss. Other people will, and other people do. It is a financial matter with all these pentacles. And understand that we put so much emphasis on money, but it is our internal state that kind of makes everything possible. When it comes to joy, when it comes to love, when it comes to connection, when it comes to being the best version of ourselves and the most powerful version of ourselves. I don't think you will ever get resolution from this person because they're not capable of giving it. Some people are so damaged and have so little true self-worth that they can't ever look at a situation and say, oh my God, I did really, really wrong. Because then that would be being personally accountable in a way that would make them question who they were. And they stand on very, very thin ice when it comes to their perception of self. So you've been in a lot of pain. You may have been suffering financially from being cheated by somebody. Somebody who had a financial motive potentially in the dealings that they had with you. Listen, they're just part of a society that is, frankly, made a little bit sick by our focus on money. And that's where they started to find their self-worth. And will they ever question things? Probably. Probably. I think each day that goes by without having any access to you in their life makes them realize that they valued the wrong things. And like I said, I don't think they'll ever come forward with that, but I think it's a factor of shame more than it is anything. Let's check our qualifying cards. Oh, there we go. I like that. Strength and the Sun. You are stronger. You are mighty. You do have compassion for others. Please remember that person has just basically got all their own wounds. I think more than anything, they felt as if they had lost their own worth because they felt they had worked very hard for something and they resented somebody in their life. And it may have been you and it may have been another person for basically, I kind of want to say, popping their balloon. Don't worry about them, let them go. Sincerely, they have everything. You may never know about it. You may never see it. But there are forces that will make sure that that scale is also balanced for them. And since they are the person who did wrong, they will be the recipient of a wrong. And the thing that you need to do is to understand it is so much better to not have this person's energy in your life. They were somebody who they kind of played a game of keep away with their approval and made you constantly feel like you were earning them when the reverse looks to have been true. They should have been trying to earn you. But they were blinded by greed. They were blinded by greed. And they wanted to punish you, I take it, even though it doesn't look as if you deserve to be punished. They did not have the ability to understand that at that time. I wouldn't worry about it. I would never look into them. I would just close that door. You don't need to lock it because if they ever do want to come back and make amends, allow somebody to make amends if they've truly seen the light. But in this particular pile, it is telling you that all you need to do to forgive is to start recognizing that. It wasn't about your worth. It wasn't about your value in their life. It was about their greed, their anger, and their own pain. And they have to walk around as that person all the time. Whereas you are a person who is trying to get better and trying to find your best self and trying to find your path forward. Absolutely everything. If you notice this in this particular deck, it is marked with the word happiness. You have courage, be brave, just keep being you. They have to keep being them, and that is enough punishment. Just turn it over to the divine. If there is truly something that confuses you because it's like, how could you let that happen? It was more important to get you away from this person, and they knew that a sum of money could be made up. They've always known that a sum of money could be returned to you, but if you remained with this particular person's energy, you would never truly believe in yourself because they had a vested interest in making sure that you viewed yourself with diminished eyes, meaning that only they thought they knew your true worth. And I think you really, really surprised them because the Seven of Wands in reverse is often a card of being taken unaware as well because you don't have your guard up. So I think that they at first believed that they were betrayed. That's their stuff. How do you forgive it? That's who you need to forgive. How do you forgive it? By reaching every day for the best version of yourself, for finding the love that is around you, whether it is for nature or for animals or for your friends or for your family or for the person that you're with now or the person that you will be with. The way that you forgive is to inhabit love, to open your heart, invite the Archangel Gabriel into your life and invite the Archangel Raphael. Gabriel is for communication and Raphael will help heal your heart space. If that's not part of your belief system, then go for your throat chakra and go for your heart chakra. Your security is returning to you. You don't need to worry. We have from the Dark Mirror, the Temple of My Body, whole healing, taking very good care of yourself, making sure you get adequate rest and exercise, making sure that you live your life in a balanced state. You have a tendency towards depression. A lot of people do. Research the foods that help with anxiety and depression. Make sure that you move your body to the extent you can every single day. And that is not about being a fitness Nazi. It is about your body will produce the correct brain chemicals because you get very sad when you think about this, because you're having a very hard time understanding, even though it hurt you, there's a big missing piece in that person that made them not understand or ever continue to examine why they are perpetually unhappy. And you were the target of their ire, because, and it could be simply that you're a woman and that they have a lot of anger towards women, that it's not particular to you. And that can be an almost enraging thing to hear. It's like, what do you mean it wasn't even about me? My God, it laid me low for years. We're talking about how to release, and these are the things that you start understanding and saying to yourself and repeating to yourself as often as you can. With fragmentation, the reason you want to forgive, because we should go into that as well, is that person's energy is something that I almost want to say it pollutes you. Do as many cord cutting meditations as you can. They're all over YouTube. They're free. Hey guys, when you interact with a free resource, to get the best out of it, stop, take a moment, either subscribe, watch a commercial, hit the thumbs up button, and here is why. Not only does it support the creator, but you are giving energy and you are receiving something to fill the hole that you just made. And it will help tremendously. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get one from the archetype decks. What are we working with here? What do we need to know? What else do we need to know? Even though it hurt you and even though it defines a little bit too much of your life, accept that it wasn't actually about something you did or didn't do or what they thought you deserved or didn't deserve. Is that they have, the word that just came through is a rancid soul. The person has a rancid soul. And you're not the one who's in charge of that part. You didn't do it, you didn't deserve it, but you do deserve to live in this energy. Let's get a couple archetype cards here. What else do we need to know here? And how can you do it? Mantras every single day. If you have to go and you have to like commune with the divine, I have a very private area that I'm able to get to in a park that I just found it one day. And I go there and there's a stream running and there's like, it's very, very beautiful. But that's where I go to kind of commune with the divine, with my guides. And every single day that I go there, I will ask for help in releasing the burdens of the past. We all have them. We all have traumas. We all have pains. We all have things where people confuse us when they are their lesser self rather than their higher self. This person, they struggle with the idea of a higher self. But please understand, when you're working with forgiving them, they're simply a product of a world that told them that this was how, this money thing, was how they would convey their feelings. Like at times they may have been very generous towards people because that conveyed their approbation or their approval. And at times that they weren't, they were conveying their displeasure. And in apparently cheating you quite badly, they were trying to convey how outraged they were. And did they have the right to be? No, but they don't have a rich inner world and you do. We have child nature. Oh my goodness. Friendship with animals, communication with nature spirits. I think I just told you where I go. And that is one of the best places to release dark energies is in nature. If you do not have access to nature, because some people are going to live in very urban areas where there's no tree to be found. On YouTube, there are all kinds of nature walks. It is the next best thing. The best thing, of course, will be interact with the real deal, but if you can't, you still have that energy available to you. Put it on and meditate and ask for the aid and the help and the guidance of your team to help you release a burden that only weighs you down. And that's why you want to cut it out. If you're waiting for justice from that person, don't worry about justice for that person. That will be taken care of in its own time. Simply ask for your ledger to be made whole and balanced again. And they want to do that, but they know that you have trouble releasing the confusion and the pain. Ask again for the help of the Archangel Raphael in healing that space. Warrior, yeah, baby. Strength, skill, discipline, and toughness of will. Heroism, stoicism, and self-sacrifice and conquering the ego. How does conquering the ego come in here? Because you have to accept it wasn't about you, even though it hurt you. It was about a hole in the fabric of this person's soul. They were not able to value what was real, so they valued what this world would. It's very prideful, it's very ego-based for them. And I think that they felt very diminished in their own right and felt that they should diminish you as well. I really don't want to go too far into whether or not they have regrets or what's going on with them, because we want to leave this thing behind, you know? We have empathy. I am open to seeing both sides of a situation. And then doubt. I release the need to know all the answers. And we're going to go ahead and say exactly that about this person. Stop worrying about them. One of my most popular readings, two of my most popular readings, are entitled "What Will Happen to Them for Hurting Me." People want to know it's human. Let it go. Try to let it go. It will be taken care of. Even if you don't see the results, even if it looks like they're living their best life, there's still that person inside. You want to be the person who's victorious, the person who rises above, the person who feels happiness and joy and love again. The way to do it is to release this. And when it comes to seeing both sides of the situation, please understand that they thought they were in the right on something. And even if they were not, they thought they were. We all see things from our ego place, from our own perspective first. Has time taught them differently? I do believe so. But don't worry about that part. At the time that they did this crappy thing, they thought that they were justified, potentially even in like, hey, if you're not protecting yourself, then it's on you, type of thing. Were they victim blaming? Of course. But it was because they couldn't look in the mirror and see who they really were being. And how you forgive is quite simply by recognizing that. By recognizing that it could have been you, it could have been a different person entirely, and they still would have done the exact same thing. It was never based on your worth. It was never based on what you did or who you are. It was based on who they aren't and who they can't be. And it is not your job to help them figure anything out. Let this go so that your slate can be made clean again. So they wipe it out of your mind and just let it go and say, well, it's just because they lacked something. I'm a fortunate person to no longer have that person in my life. And just be thankful that something still cares enough about you to be trying to guide you towards healing. And whenever you can, get to nature and talk out loud about it if you want. But try not to focus on the how much it hurt me, instead how much you want to heal. Stop focusing on the pain and start focusing on the ability to release something so that you can be whole once again. Because for as long as you hold on to this pain, that person is a part of you and they don't deserve it, frankly. They didn't earn it. Let's go here. Let's get a wisdom of the house of the night. What else will help here? Is there anything else I need to know? 1 and 2 and 3. We're going to move towards the, what's going to make it better of this all. All right. Ah, here we go. Beauty and wishing. Oh, it's beautiful. Wishing and beauty, and then confidence. The reason something still hurts you is that you have a deep belief in fairness, justness, and rightness. And you can't receive it from somebody with that big hole in the soul. So give it to yourself. Find the beauty in the life that remains to you, and know, particularly since this involves money, money's the easiest thing to fix. Just keep opening up and asking for aid and for help in receiving, and do the best that you can in this world to be the best person that you can be. And this is a hard one to hear, and so please, breathe deep before I even say it. Remember that you too have had things that you need to be forgiven for, because we all do. We all do. And that sometimes the easiest way to achieve forgiveness is to understand that. Simply I hope I'm forgiven for anything I did, even though you never did anything this bad. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because you didn't do anything this bad. This is pretty grasping and greedy and golem-like. Try to have compassion for this person who has no true love other than the love of money. Because joy will elude them until they can understand that people are more valuable than any currency could ever be. And I think they barred themselves from your land forever because of how dirty that they did you. And that's a big punishment, even if they will never recognize it or tell you that. But recognize that in your own right and just ask, I want to live in the energy of love again. Heal my heart chakra, heal my heart space. Let me let this go as being an unimportant chapter in my life that I can rewrite with my own strength, my own happiness, my own empathy, and my ability to release somebody who is not worthy of my energy. You are the warrior. This is a card of a warrior. This is a card of a warrior. Child nature, which is friendship with animals and nature. And this is another card that has to do with the sun is the card for summer, for growth, for flourishing, for abundance, for blooming. Go towards this energy. It's where you deserve to dwell. And you never deserve to be hurt like that. But realistically, there are very few people who deserve to be hurt. And I guess nobody does. I guess the only thing that was in my mind there was like, this almost looks criminal. If they did not receive a criminal punishment, know that the scales are balanced by something else, okay? Let go of this fragmented energy. This person doesn't deserve your energy. And they deserve to truly feel your absence as well. Which when you let go of that person entirely, of that energy, of that situation, of the need for closure from them that you cannot achieve because their ego is too fragile a construct to ever be able to face who they really were in that situation. And I could be wrong, like they could turn a corner tomorrow and find their best self. But let go of it so that you can be your best self. And just keep thanking whatever powers helped you get to this point and ask them to help you to keep going and to keep healing you and to keep guiding you. And the way that you forgive is to find your love again. Find it for your hobbies, for your friends, for your world around you, for food that you like, for views that inspire you, for connecting, for the fact that there is something beyond this which we can't see. There's more to this world than we can see. Find your love of that magic, of that mystery, of that connection, and let go of that energy. It is truly, even though money is so necessary to this world, it is only money, and you will be able to make it back in scores if you can simply release the part of you that holds on, wondering, are you ever going to say anything? Are you ever going to do anything? It doesn't matter. You are free of that person. And that is a bonus and a reward and a gift of freedom. And everything will come back to you if you simply ask for it to come to you from a healthy and a loving source. Okay? That was pile number 1. Thank you so much for joining me. You want to book me for a private reading, there's a link to my website in the description box down below. It's so easy to say it's only money, you know? It can make life terrifying and a great stressful event when we don't have enough. So instead, concentrate on asking to be given all that you truly deserve and ask it to come from a happy and a joyful source. And it will come to you. And if it hasn't been, it may be because they really needed you to accept this part of the lesson. That person isn't the point of your life. You are. You, and the best version of you that you can be, will allow you to continue to evolve, to continue to grow, to have more love, to have more joy, to have more everything. And also to have more money. Okay? Take care. Be well. Welcome back. If you chose pile number 2, then this is your reading. We're putting the number 2 over there. People can easily fast forward to their readings that way, but there are timestamps in the description box down below. Hey, we got a heavy duty read today about who do you need to forgive and how do you forgive them. If you're not in the space to hear this, I just ask that you click away now so that you don't upset yourself or get triggered, and it's okay if you're not in that space. We come to the place we need to as we are meant to. We're using the Starman Tarot with an infinity spread to find out who do you need to forgive and how do you forgive them. Like I said, this could include some trauma, so be prepared. And again, if you're not in that space, that's cool. Just, come back when you are. Let's get going here. We're using an infinity spread, which is 8 cards with 2 clarifiers. 7 of Cups in reverse, okay? With the 10 of Wands in the upright, all right. Wow, 3 of Wands in reverse, yow. And then the 6 of Cups in the upright, well, hold on just a moment. 3 of Swords in the upright. Knight of Swords in the upright. I have the Strength card in the upright. And then I have the Magician in reverse. Okay. This appears to be someone who broke your heart. This is the first part of the story. These are the underlying issues, and every card interrelates in an infinity spread, and we will get our clarifying cards in a bit. So the 7 of Cups in reverse is that card of like reality, like, cold hard reality. 7 of Cups in the upright can be spell work, but it can be everything is up in the air. It's be careful with your choices. And then the 10 of Wands in the upright is like an overburdened situation, like a stressful situation. With the 3 of Wands in reverse, which is frankly making some poor choices. Like in a relationship reading, it can be like a third party card where somebody like is only thinking with, their not thinking with their higher self. They're guided by their impulses and desires. Basically a sex sign. 6 of Cups in the upright is a relationship from the past or to the past. It can be nostalgia, but it's frequently about childhood. And it's somebody who, like, I think you've really left them behind in terms of your emotional connection to them. Knight of Swords moves away from something very swiftly. And for the most part, you've overcome it and like you kind of see them clearly. And you just kind of don't understand them. It could be a sibling, quite frankly, with that 6 of Cups. It could be somebody who really let you down in that, kind of before adulthood area of life. But they told you a whole bunch of lies, basically, to cover up something that I think they said they would do and they did not do. They've always coped through lying, is what I can see from this particular one. They want to be a particular person that their own nurturing experience didn't prepare them for, meaning they were never given tools, and so every house that they build is very faulty. It's, it's held together with, it's chewing gum and baling twine and, bobby pins type of thing. They don't know how to do something because they're very, very damaged from their own, apparently, parental source, who is a very deeply manipulative person. How do you forgive? By understanding that there's a part of them that's real. There's a part of them that's this wonderful human being, a very loving and giving person, but they've never had any emotional safety. And they made some poor choices around how they treated you, potentially telling you that they would be there for you in something and then kind of not showing up. And apparently in the aftermath, they told big fat whopping lies about why they did what they did. Please understand, they may be too frightened of how deep their damage goes to ever examine it. You have a lot of courage. And you seem very similar in emotional makeup to this particular person. The way that you forgive it is to understand that it's an understandable wound. You know enough about, you might have shared it, this really could be a sibling. You know enough about their formative experience to understand it's like, yeah, no, I know who raised them. It's a miracle they're not a serial killer type of thing. because they had somebody in their life who made it so deeply unsafe to tell the truth that they genuinely, when they know they've let somebody down, they become the biggest fabulist in the world because they're desperately backpedaling to make sure that they can retain the love of somebody, because they had someone who used the idea of disapproval as a manipulative tool. Never making them feel confident made that other person feel powerful. And so whenever they've done something wrong, they're really, really frightened that they will lose the people that they love. And apparently they were threatened with all forms of abandonment their whole life. They may have been literally abandoned. This is like, they don't know how to properly cope with stress. They take on too much. The only value that they know has to do with the hard work that they put in. They're always trying to do too much. They make poor choices. And the thing is that try to have compassion for it. They're actually, like, it's a little bit amazing that they've made it to this stage in their life without having one of the bigger pitfalls. They're stronger than you think they are, and more happened to them than you know. And all you really need to forgive is this was never a person to be relied upon. Understand why, and release the burden of, why did you let me down? Because they tried to do something that they weren't capable of doing, because they're used to having to earn somebody's approbation, somebody's love, somebody's good opinion. They don't know how to be their authentic self because they were always trying to hide their authentic self from, like I said, just this person who would manipulate them very, very deeply. I don't want to say that this is the type of personality that would pull flies' wings off to see them squirm, but it's a little bit like that. They take their pain out on other people. And that's the why. And how do you forgive? By seeing them as a little kid again. They did something to you as an adult, I think, or as a near adult. But please understand the origins of what they did are in that little kid part of them that learned to lie so that they wouldn't be hurt by this very merciless energy. Four Swords in reverse action. We're going to move on to the Tower. Whoa, interesting. There's this kind of divine intervention energy around this. Like maybe just hearing, oh my God, that's true, they're just a kid. They're a kid that nobody taught how to do things, and they were always threatened with not being loved. But the Tower, for me, I have a good relationship to the Tower. Why? Because it's epiphanies, it's divine intervention. Can it also be failure and, everything on a faulty foundation must fall? Sure, it absolutely can. The way to forgive is to talk to yourself about who they really are, to see them in your mind's eye as a child again. You may have actually known them as a child. Like I said, this really could be a sibling. To give them the grace and the benefit of understanding, it's like, yeah, no, they did have a rough, right? And they don't have because I think all they ever do is work. Like they really, whoever this person is, they only valued, it's like their only idea of worth in somebody is like how much they were busting their butt to impress them. And so they live a very unbalanced life. And they're so defined by fear, and the fear of loss and the fear of being alone. And in their heart, they really are just this little kid. And they don't seem that way. I think they seem quite arrogant, quite frankly, actually. Or like overconfident or egotistical. Please forgive them. They are simply, doesn't mean you have to have them in your life, by the way. Forgiveness does not mean inclusion. It just means releasing the burden, the pain, the confusion, the anger. This is a lot easier than the first pile. The first pile was a little bit weighty, quite frankly. Not to spoil the pile. But this particular person, that's the key to forgiving them. By the way, if you didn't know this person as a child, I really don't think this is your pile. And I mean, you were young as well. the best part of them is something that they learned how to hide. And they learned how to protect that part of them in a way that is self-destructive. And they don't have the emotional wherewithal because they're always trying to carry too much and be impressive to this particular figure. And the only way that they could do that is being like, it's almost very self-punishing. But truly, the reality is their heart is broken and that they have never felt secure or truly loved and that they've had a very, very lonely time. And they did let you down. A lot of people let that person down to begin with. And it's not about like, turnabout is fair play. It's just, please understand that there is an energy here where the person made very poor choices, but it wasn't out of malice. And like I said, I have this feeling the intricate lies that they told around why they were just desperately trying to hold on to a relationship with you. And that may not be possible because here's the thing, they haven't healed. They haven't healed. Their damage may go too deep for this lifetime, or they may not be getting the tools. Humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. Try to remember the good memories with them because there was a reason you cared about them. There was a reason you shared things with them. Focus on the positive and know that they just have these gaping wounds. There's no malice in this heart. There isn't. This person genuinely wants to be loving and kind. They just don't have the ability to face themselves honestly because this is such a poisonous, manipulative energy, this magician in reverse. They felt attacked all the time, and the way they learned to defend themselves was to lie and to lie and to lie and to lie because every now and then they could outlie this person. Surrender. I can release my need to control. I want one more. Fear. I realize that I am testing my resolve to live in the energy of love. The way to forgive this and to step into your own more powerful energy, to continue on your spiritual journey, is every time you think of this person, remember the good times and remember the kid that you knew, the younger person that you knew, and to know that that person still exists and that they weren't trying to hurt you, but that they are always in pain. And they really, really look up to you. And they don't know how to repair something. And I will be honest, it's going to be so individual, but they may not belong in your life. But it doesn't have to be something with animosity or antipathy or I'm protecting myself from this always toxic person. This person is simply incredibly lost. Give them the amount of energy that you can if you can do so safely. And if you can't, don't berate yourself for that. But you wonder, you forget you're stronger than other people. The fact that you're still here after a lot of disappointments and reality kind of kicking your butt on the regs, the honest, I don't think you ever think of yourself this way, but maybe it isn't that they're super weak, but that you're super strong. And a lot of the time, the strongest people I've ever met think that they're weak. Like they know what's going on behind their personal scenes. They know what their struggles really are. But what other people see is this remarkably resilient and strong person who just gets knocked down and gets back up and gets knocked down and like, you know, the human equivalent of a weeble. And please understand that you might be a little intimidating to people, and that is not to blame you for your own stuff, but you don't see yourself that way sometimes. And it was even harder for them to have let you down because they wanted your good opinion so much. But like I said, apparently, did they ever spin the epic fiction around whatever it is that they did? And you feel so deceived, and I need you to understand something. Sometimes people who are telling lies are not bad people. They're just people who have no idea how to tell the truth to themselves and others, because at the core of it, they're in so much darn pain. And they were never given any assurance or self-worth, and this person never learned that they were worthy. They were never given the tools to love themselves, but always to criticize themselves. The part of them that you loved and recognized is as real as the part that hurt you. You can protect yourself from them. You do not need to let them back into your life if you don't want to. But that's what I think you need to understand, because I think you're afraid they were always manipulating you and always lying to you. Because they let you down somehow, and like again, it's like it was just, oh, and I think it was a little see-through in how intricate it got. It's like, wow, that's just a lot around this set of circumstances. And I think it happened more than once, that it was a pattern with them. And you kind of started to wonder, it's like, are they just a terrible person? Are they like a natural thief and liar? No, but they take on way, way, way too much. And whenever they make a mistake, they're terrified. And they made a mistake somehow. And I don't know that, and it cost something, like they ruined something. And they do not have the ability to tell you that because they're a little bit intimidated by the strength within you because they don't possess it, and they feel so scared. How you forgive this person, like the first had this, great big intricate about how to invoke energies and everything. This is not that complicated. This is just looking at somebody with all their human frailty and understanding that it's like, if I'd had that set of circumstances around me to that extent, and I was that person instead of the person that I am, I wonder if I'd really been any different. Love yourself and see yourself in everybody. Child magical, seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things, the belief that everything is possible. The shadow attribute is pessimism, depression, and disbelief in miracles, believing in that energy and action are not required for growth. I really think that you're inhabiting the light attribute on this. Like, you might be a person who's watching this reading not because of heavy-duty trauma, but because you're like, yeah, I do have something I don't quite understand. Remember that person as a child. That is as real a version of them as anything you ever encountered. Child divine, innocence, purity, and redemption suggests a special connection with the divine. You, I think, are able to access this divine energy very easily. You may be able to channel on the divine conduit level. A lot of people in my collective can. You will never truly understand it, but try to forgive it and try to remember that this person is just in whopping amounts of pain that they will never know how to get away from except for momentarily. But they're always running from it. They're always taking on too much. They're always hiding from themselves because they feel like if anybody really saw them, no one would love them. Have compassion for that. Here we go, 1 and 2 and 3. And like I said, it's like you had good times with them too. I really get the feeling that you knew them when you were young. But they're very, very... they're not a person you can depend on because they don't even know how to depend on themselves. Here we go, let's go. What do we got? Ooh, that. You have the power to transcend failure and move into a limitless future. The transcending failure, whatever they did, by the way, this is the energy of failure as well. But like I think they failed to come through on you, for you on something, and you were just like, what? How could you, why would you even say that you would do that if you weren't going to? Like, you just felt like they were deceiving you, and they weren't. They want to be the big gesture person. They want to be the hero, but they can't. Because ultimately, when something goes wrong, they confuse their worth with having made a mistake. And we all make mistakes. Let's get one more on that one from the discernment before a passionate encounter leads to the magic of love. Very interesting. With mountain goat, fighting for love or ardent declarations may hide unfaithfulness. Passion can be about like hidden feelings and suffering as well. It is entirely possible. It is entirely possible that there is a romantic energy here from somebody from the past. That ardent declarations may hide unfaithfulness. Like, the more they insist something is true, the less likely it is to be. That's the, they're trying to tell me how you can forgive. Oh, let me take one more look at that. You have the power to transcend failure. They don't. Fighting for love or ardent declarations. They really wanted to keep your love in their life. And so they lied and lied and lied. And like, they really doubled down on things. And to the extent that it's like gaslighting. Like you're kind of, they're denying your reality so much that it feels like gaslighting. Here's the thing. Whoever this magician in reverse character is, and I think it was a caretaker, could have been a parental unit, could have been a caretaker, they were constantly gaslit. They were constantly gaslit themselves. They don't mean to do it in their own turn, they just don't, but they do. And the reason that they do it, and probably the reason that that caretaker initially did it before they like got a sick thrill out of the power, the person I just saw on those cards does not get that sick thrill. They're not doing it for the purposes of relieving their own feelings. But they do it because they're so terrified they're going to lose absolutely everybody that they love. And unfortunately, that very habit guarantees that they do lose everyone. At the very heart of it, they're trying to cover up the fact that they were convinced that they would fail at everything by somebody who had a vested interest in making them feel small. And so they walk around feeling 2 inches tall all the time. Forgive that person, because at the root of it, they're just an abused child that grew up into an adult that doesn't even understand themselves. Let it go and be so grateful that you are so strong and that you have retained your ability to see and to love and to do. And have the kindness to extend grace to them, because they live in a world in which they don't even understand what that is to give to themselves or to anybody else. Okay? Pile number 2, that was your weighty one. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to book me for a private reading, there's a link to my website in the description box down below. Please don't forget to subscribe. It helps my channel. Just like a closing thought on this, it can be so disillusioning to encounter that in somebody we once trusted. The weird thing is that that person is not a snake in the grass. They're just desperately trying to defend a part of them that was never loved in the first place, and is just this cowering little kid who learned the worst moves ever to defend themselves. All right? Take care. Be well. Welcome back. This is pile number 3, and if you chose pile number 3, this is your reading. We're putting number 3 over there. There will be timestamps in the description box down below, but that makes it more easy. People can more easily fast forward to their reading if I put the number over there. Hey, the Guardians of the Night are bringing you your predictive cards. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you like the reading, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. If you want to book me for private reading, there's a link to my website in the description box down below. But today's topic is a fairly weighty one, and I did get told to do it. Who do you need to forgive, and how do you forgive them? Let's get going on here. Who does pile number 3 need to forgive, and how do they forgive them? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We're gonna find out. All right, we're doing an infinity spread. That's 8 cards. Usually I take 2 clarifiers as well. I have the Judgment card in the upright. Oh my goodness, that's the card of the Archangel Gabriel. That is something being brought to life. That is truth and epiphanies, clarity, soul searching. Can be a new karmic cycle beginning as well. This particular one features a snake. Remember, a snake sheds its skin and renews. It's not just an icky concept about, be careful for the snake in the garden type of thing. A snake renews itself. And this is about renewal and new stages beginning. 2 of Wands in the upright, which is the crossroads energy. I have the Hermit in reverse, which is coming out of, what's going on here? Hermit in reverse, which is coming out of a stage of soul searching and healing, having learned lessons and moving forward again. In the tarot, the Hermit, which represents the Virgos, but it also, the actual Hermit within tarot in the Rider-Waite, that person is the Fool. Having gone through the first 8 stages of the major arcana, the fateful journey, the hero's journey, They withdraw into a cave to kind of mull over the lessons they've learned. Hermit in reverse is like kind of emerging from that period of stasis. So we've got what's going on with you. Ace of Swords in the upright, which is clarity, success, messages, the ability to like receive divine messages as well. Who are we forgiving here though? The Emperor in reverse, somebody who abused you. It can be a sociopath. It can be, it's a misuse of power card. The Emperor in the upright is a great card. It's the card for Aries. It's the card for wise choices. It's the Wisdom of Solomon card. It is making choices that serve you. But the Emperor in reverse is somebody who abused their power. With the Page of Wands in the upright, I have the Star in the upright, and then the Queen of Swords in the upright, which is somebody who like sees through the BS, sees the truth. The Queen of Swords can be an air sign energy, can be a judge, can be a lawyer. But it's somebody who's thinking with their analytical mind. So there are two things going on here. One is somebody who just badly abused you. But it's almost like the person you need to forgive is you. To understand that you have healed, you'll be different, you'll make different choices going forward. All the power is in your hands. You can go forward and have everything you ever hoped for again. Don't let this person's energy define you. A new day is dawning. You choose your direction. You choose where you take this. How do you forgive this person, but this person appears to be you for having, it looks like potentially have been in a relationship in which you were abused. You didn't know any better. It is possible that the way this person initially treated you, because hardly any abusers start out as abusers, you'd flee. It's by degrees and by inches that they up the ante on it, and they're not always terrible. On the other side of a relationship in which I had this energy, this was my partner for almost 20 years, I really had to recognize that it's like, yeah, no, as awful as it got, because it got awful. There were times that this person, my ex-partner, was a wonderful partner and indulgent and kind and complimentary, which made the manipulation and the deceit and all the other things that went on that much more sinister. Because there was like, this person would be one person one day and another, depending on their mood. Please understand, if this is a similar situation, stop thinking it's because you're foolish or you can't see the bad in people or you're only attracted to abusers. You're not. This person is very good at observing what somebody's weaknesses are, because it's all they ever do. They watch and they watch and they watch, looking to exploit things in other people. Because it's just kind of who they are. They just try to only have relationships with, people who can advance them. So they targeted you. And it's because you're special. But you're not foolish for having remained where you were, and you're not defined by it forever. And your ability to discern, so on point. I think you may be psychic with the Star in the upright, because it's one of the cards of psychic connections. And I think you're wondering, it's like, maybe I'm just not any good at it, because why didn't I see this person? Because they presented two faces. One was this wonderful, loving partner, and the other was like as poisonous as a person could be. And they may have taken pleasure in hurting you. But they used the whole, they treated you better than anybody had ever treated you to get their hooks into you. I think the person you're trying to forgive and to move forward with is you. In terms of forgiving this person, just let it go. Just let it go. Everybody has their own wounds. You can see them pretty clearly. You understand that like there may actually be a missing piece in their psyche. The saying is, sociopaths are made and psychopaths are born. Meaning a psychopath is a completely different creature who like doesn't actually feel things. But a sociopath is usually someone who is not taught empathy or compassion. It's usually a lack of nurturance in their own formative experience, because we all have to be taught empathy. We all have to be taught to share our toys. We all have to be taught that other people's feelings are important. We all have to be taught that we are good and kind, we have these tender feelings, but so does everybody else, and to try and respect them. And this person, I do not think, received that nurturance. The reason they are missing a piece is because the people who built them never tried to give it to them. Let that poor broken soul go, because you are actually very whole and strong because you've come through everything. You make good choices now. You see with clarity. If you're having trouble allowing new people in, it is not because you're going to get fooled again. But please don't think you need to hold everybody at an arm's length in order to be safe. The way that you forgive, the way that you release it, is to recognize, we're going to put that energy over there, to recognize everything that I just said. As sad and as hard as it is because it hurt you, it wasn't about you. It was about this person being fundamentally broken. Fundamentally broken. They would do it to you. They could do it to somebody similar to you. Have pity for somebody this broken on the inside, because can you even imagine what it really feels like to be them? It would be such an empty and sad experience when every single relationship they have is about what they can get from another person. You're not that person, though. Now you see with clarity, now you act with conviction. Forgive yourself for having been fooled by somebody who was trying to fool you. That's what you seem to be struggling with, is that somebody abused you fundamentally, and it may have been because you were abused as a child. And they do. Predators like this, they search for people who have those vulnerabilities, who are people pleasers. Being a people pleaser is not an insult. It likely was the only way you ever received validation for who you were as a person, or comfort, or love, or approval, or a feeling of inclusion. It is something people are taught, that they have to earn the love of others. People like that look for people exactly like that. People who will bust their butt and give and give and give and give just to be loved. But it is never going to be your fault that you were that person. Because just like this person didn't receive what they needed, the messages you received were damaging to you. And so this person's initial feeling of and they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. Please forgive yourself for not understanding that they always have an agenda with absolutely everything that they do. But that does not mean that everyone does. And your psychic stuff will never be that blinded again. When it comes to particularly romantic partners, psychics usually have a barrier in between. They don't get to read their partners very well because it's a boundary. It's a boundary. It is a nice thought that we psychically connect with somebody, but we never get to know all parts of them because that is part of their authentic, individual, unique self. And we can never see all parts of a person. It wasn't that you were blind, it was that they were hiding things. Let's check our clarifiers. Eight of Swords in reverse, which is moving forward freely, and the Six of Pentacles in the upright, everything coming out in a balanced state. You will never have a relationship like that again, but it isn't because you need to approach every relationship with a bazooka and a cudgel saying, how do I have to defend myself against you? Trust yourself more. Because particularly when I'm talking about me, and this happens to be true of almost everybody who ended up in a long-term relationship in which they were abused. First of all, I was really damaged and pretty toxic in my own right when I started out because I had a lot to heal. But secondly, I really had to forgive myself for not seeing something because the person took pains to hide it for a long time when it was beneficial for them to do so. And that is very indicative of many relationships. Until they get their hooks into you, they try to be a different person. But there are always little things that show the mask slips and you see who they really are. But you explain it away because they cover it up very quickly. That's all that happened. You will never be the person who explains away the mask slipping again. You'll be like, I just saw that demon, I'm getting out of here. You can protect yourself because you don't have to be hypervigilant. You simply won't be as prone to excusing away bad behavior. When it came to my ex-partner, I kept telling myself that he had a big blood sugar problem, that he would turn into this bear of a human being, which, is a little bit ridiculous to, if the person didn't have a medical issue, to assume that somebody could become this, completely impossible to deal with person simply because they were hungry. It's like that like we're adults. Like even when you're hungry, you can still control yourself again unless you have a medical condition. And we can excuse things because we want to retain the good parts of somebody who, again, that stuff can be as real. Sometimes people are just acting from a place of damage. There's literal damage to this person, but I don't know that they're doing anything to face themselves. When it comes to what you should do going forward, please move forward. Please move forward. Tell yourself, I learned my lesson from that, and it doesn't mean that I'm never supposed to be close to somebody, but rather that I'm never supposed to turn away from my own mistreatment. That was the lesson. That was the lesson. That is the thing that will keep you safe. If somebody mistreats you going forward, you will block them. You will cut them dead. Don't do it mistreatment. Somebody can have a bad moment. Somebody can snap. Somebody can, and you correct them. You tell them you owe me an apology. And if they give the apology, here was the dead giveaway with my ex-partner. He never apologized for anything, ever. And that's simply not a normal human thing because we all mess up sometimes. If somebody offers a sincere apology and corrects the behavior, they can remain in your life. But you would never, ever assume that explaining that they hurt, because that's what I did. I assumed that explaining how that person was hurting me would help correct the behavior because it never occurred to me that it was intentional. It would now, and it always will going forward. And this person is living a very similar journey. But how do you forgive? By recognizing that you don't need to hold on to it to keep yourself safe. Because that's what you've been doing. You've been holding on to it because it makes it, you think it's what will protect you from it happening again. It won't. What will protect you from it happening again is your ability to see things. I love that there's an owl on this because owls are such about spirit messages. You will see the truth clearly and you will act accordingly. You will never put another person before you to that extent again. The person you need to forgive is you. You weren't weak, you weren't blind, you weren't stupid. You were loving. And you assumed the other person was coming from a loving place. But you won't do that going forward when the behaviors build up too much. And it'll take a very little amount of time. You're safe because you will make yourself safe. Advocate inspires you to put compassion into action. It's also, when you heal from something like that, my goodness, can you become the best friend to have in these situations? Because you'll help other people see it too. And I will admit that the first stage after having encountered this energy is you're hyper vigilant and the smallest transgression will be that is evidence of a narcissist. People can have narcissistic moments. They can be too self-involved and need to be reminded that somebody else matters. It's not always a personality disorder. Sometimes it's just evidence of trauma or pain. Student, humility and devotion to knowledge, openness to lifelong learning. That is how you forgive, is to understand that it taught you a lesson that will arm you with the knowledge that you need to be safe for the rest of your life. It will never happen again because you wouldn't ever ignore the things. To get the thing that you wanted, you would never ignore the thing that was the elephant in the room, the ghoul in the closet, the thing that's haunting the relationship. Rebel, challenges authority to affect social change, rejects spiritual systems that do not seek inner needs. You just simply, you wouldn't sit still for it ever again. And that is not to victim blame. That is just saying you were coming from a place of thinking that this person had good motives and they didn't. And you would not let as much slide going forward. You don't need to constantly be oh man, I let it happen once. You didn't let anything happen. Somebody was up to something and they did what they were trying to do. And was it always that much in the forefront of their mind? Perhaps not. People don't always understand their subconscious impulses. Half the time when we're waiting for closure or for an apology, we have to accept people are very confused by themselves, and it's why they reach for all these rationalizations. I did this because of this, because of what you did. But the abuser thing is, look what you made me do. And they will often truly believe that whatever it was you did justified what they did to you, because they can't take responsibility for what they did themselves. To be like, wow, I just came from a really wrong-headed standpoint. Forgive yourself and move forward, knowing that you learned a difficult lesson and that you are now the Queen of Swords, regardless of what your gender is. Remember, in tarot, gender is meaningless. It represents feminine and masculine energies. They can sometimes signify people who are identifying as a particular gender, but it represents an energy. And in the Queen of Swords, remember, the queens are gestating something and the kings are manifesting it. You can manifest your clarity, your truth, and your ability to recognize somebody for who they really are now. Indecision, I use my intuition in all aspects of my life. Surrender, I can release my need to control. And then fear, I realize that I'm testing my resolve to live in the energy of love. Fear is the thing that I think you need to forgive in yourself. Hey, listen, if somebody hurt you intentionally a whole bunch, of course you're afraid. Of course you're afraid. Please start trusting your ability to spot what you need to see in order to keep yourself safe going forward. And again, that has nothing to do with saying you are responsible for the things that happen to you. You genuinely are not. Other people are responsible for their actions. If that person cannot take that responsibility, just release them. And I think the question of what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong and you weren't foolish. Forgive you. When it comes to that other person, like I said, sometimes when this whole journey of like learning how to forgive started out when I kept getting clients whose like partners had tried to kill them and in some instances went to jail for it. And it's such a difficult thing to forgive when somebody is like tries to end your life. When you allowed them into your life in the first place, you feel like you need to take responsibility. You're never responsible for somebody else's actions at that level. And how do you move into forgiveness? And how do you move forward? And how do you have relationships? How do you like not fear that it will happen again? To understand that even as awful as it was, you learned something so valuable that you'll be safe for the rest of time. But that you don't need to have ironclad barbed wire fences around your heart for you to be safe. Emperor Penguin, small steps lead to profound metamorphosis. Start connecting with friends again. Maybe connect with people from the past a little bit more. You may have isolated yourself a lot during that hermit phase as you withdrew into self to learn your lessons, but it appears you're coming out of it. Move forward freely, knowing that even though it was a difficult lesson, my God, did you ever earn your PhD in self-protection. Ancient Wing, dare to be first, dare to be different. Sometimes you have to leap and go forward into the future in order to release and forgive the past. Forgive this person for being broken. They're not the person who broke them. They are on the hook for whether or not they try to repair that, but it is not your responsibility nor work that you can do. If the best that you can achieve, when we were talking about the people who had partners who tried to kill them, is indifference to that person's fate, then do that. Just hand it over to the divine. Listen, I don't know what to do with this level of malice. I don't know how to forgive that. What do I do with it? You give it over to the divine saying, please protect others and free me. I don't want to fear that that seed of poison lives in others. And how do I do that? By recognizing that person alone is responsible for what they did. Even if they are embodying a personality type, they are still the master of their own crap. And that you will see things with such clarity going forward. You can move forward freely, knowing that everything will come out in a balanced state going forward because you would accept no less. That's how you move forward. The friendships you will have will be reciprocal. You're never just going to be somebody's emotional dumping ground again. The people you allow into your life will have a good balance, or you will not keep them in your life. You will have higher standards for your treatment because that person treated you so badly that you had to learn how to love yourself, and now you do. Go forward in the star's energy and to know that you are as healed as you wish to be, and as you go forward, and that's, by the way, not saying if you're not healed, it's your own fault. If you're not healed, It's because there's still a wound within. Talk to yourself lovingly and kindly. Look yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself about the things you like. Maybe learn to talk into voice memo about the things you're excited about and play it back to yourself so that you can learn to really enjoy your own personality. Once you really get to know yourself, once you really get to see yourself for who you are versus seeing yourself through the eyes of this person who had a vested interest in diminishing you, you will know that you will attract the love that you deserve and you'll spot the people who are trying to sell you a knockoff version of it for their own agenda, okay? So interesting one, pile number 3. I was wondering what was going to come out in all of these. The person you need to forgive is yourself. You do not need to remain in the hermit's energy in order to be safe. Move forward and have connections with others at the level that you are comfortable with. And know that there was a valuable lesson in that mistreatment. And it is not that all people suck, but that rather that when people start showing me, when that mask slips, take note and make sure that you understand when monsters are there versus just fallible people, okay? An interesting message on that. It's not saying that you're responsible for your own safety as much, although we all are. It is saying give yourself credit for the ways in which you would be able to be so now, okay? Take care, be well. Welcome back. If you chose pile number 4, this is a rereading. We're putting the number 4 over there so that people can easily fast forward to their reading, but there will be a timestamp in the description box down below. We're using the Crow deck to find out who do you need to forgive and how do you forgive them. Weird and diverse readings so far. I'm always fascinated when I get told to do one of these, what's going to come out in it. Who does pile number 4 need to forgive and how do they forgive them? Hey guys, before I get started, please don't forget to subscribe. It helps my channel. If you like the reading, please don't forget that thumbs up button. If you want to book me for a private reading, there's a link to my website in the description box down below. Let's go. If I sound a little bit like, what's going to happen now? It's because I'm a little bit like, what's going to happen now? All right, we're using an infinity spread that's 8 cards with 2 clarifiers. 8 of Swords in the upright, which is doubt. Feeling imprisoned, feeling trapped. 2 Swords in reverse, which is a clear and open psychic eye. Making definitive choices, seeing things clearly. 8 of Cups in reverse, wow. Okay, 8 in the upright, 8 in reverse. Remember, when you get that side by side, that's something called the download code, which is an area of your life that is expanding. The 8s are about speed and progress and expansion. It's this kind of building momentum. It's a very swift moving energy. There's nothing standing in between you and your progress any longer, is what this particular energy is saying, that you're moving forward freely as you return to yourself after having learned potentially difficult lessons. Hey, the Page of Cups in reverse for me is sometimes an apology, but it's often more a surprise. I don't personally see it as disappointment. I have a different card for that. I have the Moon in the upright, although some readers can. Remember, every reader has a different relationship to their cards. And if you're watching a reading from a reader, their meaning applies because they're the person shuffling and doing the reading. Moon in the upright, Pisces card with Hangman in reverse, which is like taking a new perspective on things. This is very interesting. Hold on, let's go. I have the 10 of Wands in the upright. I have the 7 of Cups in reverse. I'm going to take my clarifiers. King of Swords in the upright with the 5 of Cups in reverse. I don't know what it is about pile number 4 and that King of Swords energy. In the other piles, I waited to look at what the clarifiers are, but I needed to go for it right away. Here's the thing with this 10 of Wands. That's about like being overburdened sometimes, carrying too many things, taking on too many things. And the person that you need to forgive is interesting because it's kind of... It's got the King of Swords energy with it. But honest to goodness, it's almost as if you suspect somebody did some form of magic against you. Because the 7 of Cups in the upright is a card of spell work for me quite frequently. In reverse like that, it can be like reality and cold hard reality. Something has been blocked for you. And it's almost like you've had a foe, but you've never known who it is because the Moon in the upright is a card of something being concealed. It could be part of a generational curse, which you'll be able to spot because there are patterns in generational trauma. Frequently involves generational curses. But honest to goodness, it almost looks like you have suspected that somebody's kind of had it in for you and has been thwarting you at every turn. And no matter what you've done, you kind of can't figure out who it is. Like, you have some suspects, but you're not positive. You're just positive that it's like, it almost seems like no matter how hard I try, I can't make progress on things, and it seems a little otherworldly. But I have a lot of doubts about who it is. Here's the thing. I think that the person you suspect is the person who did it. Okay? The person who put a lot, and remember, people do not have to be doing magic for their energy to reach you. If they're focusing intently with ill will, I think it's the person that you believe it to be, but it kind of doesn't matter, because what this energy is saying is that the period of loss in your life is over. And the way to forgive it is to understand that when somebody is focusing on you, they're not focusing on themselves. That this is probably somebody who is trying to avoid stuff within their own life. And that it was easier to blame you for something and act out against you and to kind of focus all their ire and their energy. And like, it could have even been a bully in your life. But like, it's got a more like behind the scenes energy to it type of thing. They could have been talking smack about you, or they could have been acting magically or energetically against you. And you just know that something's been blocking your progress. Part of it has been that you needed to learn some new things in your life to have better outcomes. And that you always want things before the time that they're meant to be. Like, you want something. You're trying to eradicate a pain sometimes through any means necessary rather than healing the wound. And your guides will hold you back until you've healed the wound when you've asked for assistance. If you've been calling to your guides and asking for their help, and please show me my path, and why isn't this happening? If something isn't happening, it's not because they don't love you, they don't like you, or they are like, trying to teach you by frustrating the heck out of you. It's never corporal punishment. They're never beating the crap out of you to help you learn something. It's sometimes we're super resistant to what we're learning. Whoever it is that you're suspecting of having, like, again, undermined you, they have their own issues. It's not super important that you know who that person is any longer, because the barriers have been removed. And you can move forward having learned difficult lessons and making the most out of everything that remains to you. There's been a lot of loss in this particular group. You may have lost a great deal, potentially materially. Understand that that means that anything that you gain going forward through your own efforts, you will value so much more than anything that you took for granted but lost. And that is, again, not blaming you. It's just that when we have something, a lot of the times our fears are about everything changing and losing what we have. I'm a person who's lost a great deal over and over again, and it has helped me in a lot of ways, because I always kind of have the attitude going forward that it's like, well, stuff comes and goes, and I can just get different stuff. But as long as I have some of the things that make me happy, I'm fine. And I can always find something to make me happy. And in fact, having less allowed me to find more that would make me happy, not less. Because I was never looking for it solely in an exterior source. I was looking for it within. Who does pile number 4 need to forgive, and how do they forgive them? The forgiveness lies in understanding that this person was playing a karmic lesson part in your life as well. That some of the things that they did to try and block you and to, quite frankly, hurt you were part of the things that were holding you back, but that energy was necessary to help you learn. If you can learn to be happy with less, then when you get more, you will simply be happier. But if you learn to be happy only when you have more, you are always at risk of having your personal happiness snatched away from you through loss. If you find a way to be happy after loss, and it is a choice that we make, by taking a new perspective on what we do have that we value. Instead of focusing on what might have been lost with this 5 of Cups energy, focus on valuing all that remains, the relationships that remain, the fact that you can heal, that you have the strength and the fortitude and the guidance and the universal love to heal. And to forgive this other person who, like, I really think you know who it is, but you're like, don't act out against them, because that'll just perpetuate that Mobius strip, that energy, that 8 energy of just going back and forth and back and forth. Instead of doing that, just release it, let it go, break the cycle. They may be locked in a generational thing as well. And if you break the cycle, it lets them go too. Bride in a cage, whoa. That is somebody being held back. Wow, that's like the 8 of Swords imagery. Somebody like really tried to block you. And even though I don't have the Magician on this, I very much get the feeling that there's magic involved, or at least energetic focus, because it represents this block. But your guides allowed it, and I think that might be the part that's tripping you out. It's like, how could you let somebody hurt me? They allowed it because the period where nothing could happen for you was super duper important to your own healing journey. And so they minimized any impact to you, but they couldn't negate it entirely because it was something they were going to have to create to help you anyway. So they kind of piggybacked off of this person's stuff. But here's the thing. That person is well aware that they have never been able to truly knock you down. And so they have actually given up. And the only residual energy is from the focus and the intensity that they originally had. We have parasite, whoa. And that's an attachment energy. And that is, the forgiveness will allow those cords, those energetic cords to drop away. Do cord cutting meditations, because we're also talking about how do you forgive. Lean in on doing, there's Altona 777 is the channel. They have all these vampire removals, parasite removals, spell blockers, attachment removals, spirit attachment removals. Every single last stinking one of them sounds awful, but they're only 10 minutes long and you're supposed to listen to them at a low volume, and they do in fact work. Do those, do 2 or 3 of those, and then do cord cuttings, and do them as frequently as you need to until that energy drops away. Don't hold on to this. Let it go. And that person is like, they're a human soul too. If they were blaming you for something that happened to them, it's because they wouldn't take responsibility for their own stuff. And I think the fact that, like, you're in the clear is the thing. It's just let it go. It's not, you don't, if there's a part of you that reacts with the idea of like, oh man, should I be ashamed? Did I do something to this person? Because like, it could be a third party situation. It could be a lot of things. Don't. Because it all happened as it was intended to happen. And honest to goodness, whatever this like underlying motive things, this hidden motivations card is about, that person has been so, it must have been horrible to just be that frustrated by watching somebody that they apparently were really trying to hurt just continue to rise and to rise and to rise, because that's what it looks like to them. Like, I think you felt thwarted at every turn, but from their standpoint, they were like, why are they not a sticky paste on the sidewalk? I've been trying to smush them for years. And at that point, they, I believe, had to understand, I can't possibly be in the right here if that person is still standing. And that would make them confront their own stuff. So accept it as a karmic lesson. Forgive it, because instead of looking at the why and the what did I do and like the should I, like what's going to happen there, look at it for the lessons it taught you about how to continue going forward when you're not getting what you want. Because that is a vital life skill, vital to actual true success. It's taking difficulties or roadblocks or even failure on the chin and being like, onward I go. You have to have perseverance to truly succeed. It's the worst lesson. It's no fun whatsoever. Who doesn't learn better with big slices of cake and giant scoops of ice cream and parties? But instead, sometimes it has to be like, I can barely afford bread, but at least I can afford bread. And like, why is everything so meager? To teach you how to heal with fewer and fewer things to cushion the blows around you. Sometimes the only way to heal is to face things directly, to take a new perspective, because that is ego death. Ego death, which is essential to a spiritual evolution, is to see things from a different perspective. not just from the place of my wants, my needs, my desires, but rather from the, well, what could the benefit of these difficult set of circumstances be to me? And there is one. If you're still watching something, if you're still invested in your own process, you're learning something about how to keep going. And sometimes it is like, I will keep going until the pain ceases. Because sometimes our lessons are so incredibly painful. And it's usually because the most difficult things to learn are the ones that are closest to our heart. The closer to, the most difficult things to hear are the emotional truths of our lives. About every now and then, there will be grief, there will be pain, there will be loss, because it's part of being a feeling being. It's delightful to think that we can live a blissful and joyful experience all the time, and we can when we choose it. But that there will still be loss, there will still be pain sometimes. And both of my dogs are quite elderly at this point, and neither of them are doing well. And every day when I get up, I'm a little bit surprised that one of them is still here. And she's just the light of my little life, and I love her so very much. And I know that it will be devastating on the day that she is no longer able to keep going. And that's what I'm talking about, is eventually that pain will cease, and I will be so grateful to have had this merry little 4-footed antidepressant in my life for as long as I have. Sometimes with great love comes great loss. Sometimes with great happiness comes great loss. Sometimes everything is taken away from us so that we can clear the ground and plant a new crop and enjoy and truly be grateful for our new harvest because we lost so much. But don't fear losing things. It's not handed out constantly. If you have learned the lesson about things will come and go, people will come and go, there will be loss, then you can not dread the pain so much that you'll do anything to get away from it. And when I'm talking about my dogs and like the very real likelihood that it'd be very unlikely that I'm bringing in 2024 with either of them at this point. There is a part of me that understands that it will simply open a new chapter, even if it will be sad on a level that like it hurts me to even think about. To avoid grief, we sometimes avoid joy. Grief is a part of love because most loves are lost to us through time or circumstance or choice sometimes. It is rare that we get to be side by side with those that we love, no matter what form that they take, forever. All right, I have end of a toxic karmic cycle. I've been shuffling Empress Lang's Apparently So deck. So the person you need to forgive is not the point of this. Somebody did have a lot of animosity against you. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you know who it is, but like you've never had true confirmation. Instead, look for the toxic cycle that has ended and the lessons that you learned. Karma said payback is a you know what. Was it part of your karma? Probably. So remember, karma is not punishment. It's not a judgment against you as a person. It's a lesson that you need to learn. Now, the whole idea of bad karma is, karma that brings to you the suffering that you have brought to others sometimes. But everything comes back to you. Everything that is good will come back to you. Go forward trying to be kind and compassionate and do as much good as you can in this world. And even if you don't see it come back to you immediately, sometimes the way it comes back to you is in an altered spirit in the way that you feel about your own existence and about who you are. And then we have hell yes. Apparently knowing what you need makes it all right. This period of deprivation in your life, because I've got a period of deprivation in your life that I'm not laughing at it. I'm just kind of like chuckling in the ooh way. Please give yourself credit for being able to be resilient. It taught you so much about how to have different outcomes. I'm not going to say ever view this like hidden person because I'm not going to see who it is either. Because that's not the focus. They want you to focus on the lesson. understand that that person, honest to goodness, is not the point. I started picking up 2 other cards from this, and it was Sacrifice and Addicted. Let it go, because it's a compulsive energy on that person's part, and it locks you into a loop if you are also participating in it. Who you need to forgive is, it's not a case of forgiveness, it's a case of acceptance, which does happen sometimes. Let's get some of the Infinity Oracle cards here. And so what happens going forward? What happens going forward is, like, your path is clear once more and momentum picks up. Just accepting that things happen the way they needed to, even if it sucked at points, because things can not suck going forward. Partially because during that period where that person did absolutely everything in the world that they could to thwart you, and it could be literal, by the way, you learned the value of a life that wasn't about accolades and success and progress and everything working out for you. It's really easy to be happy when everything's working out for us. But honest to goodness, it is entirely possible to be happy when things aren't going our way, because we don't put too much weight on the outcome of things any longer. Instead, we put a lot of weight on our experience, our connection, and our progress in our journey. Apology, weird, that can be an apology. Inner healing. Dark night of the soul. Union, whoa, maybe you'll get an apology. Eternal love. Huh. I might not expand on this very much, because maybe that's why they're not telling me what it is, who it is. Maybe there is, there are 2 different ways to read this. Your guides are apologizing to you. It aided your inner healing in order to have that dark time, that dark night of the soul, where you felt a little bit abandoned and like, what are you doing? Union, which can be a card of eternal alignment with your highest self. It's a call to self-integration and authentic self. And then eternal love, which can be one of the cards for the divine. But this can also be the energy of somebody who is going to apologize to you in the time and the place that is meant to happen, and that it was all part of a karmic lesson. And just release it and let it go. Don't keep carrying it forward. Take the lesson, leave the burden. Take the lesson and leave the burden. But you need to let it go, because it's an attachment that attracts other psychic crap, like vampires and things. Do those cord cuttings, do those severings. It really is genuinely possible that the person had to, like, they're dealing with their own stuff, that they're trying to heal their own energy. Let's do one more thing. We're going to use the Quantum Oracle. I've used different Oracle decks. Number 4 is always like my wild card pile. Whenever I started, I'm like, what is coming now? And indeed, it's almost like the who is not the point of the why, but the why is. Why'd that happen? Because it taught you very valuable things. And you were never being abandoned by your guides during that dark night of the soul. But you had to learn how to have resilience in order to not be crumpled by the things that will go wrong sometimes. Like I said, nobody gets a perfect journey, and it is so much better as to try and find the lesson in the difficulties that we face. Because until you repair it, you will repeat it, and until you learn a lesson, it will return to you. So, and that's not to be menacing, it's just look for the lesson, because that'll release the energy. Optimism. Peace. Status quo, and then we want one more on this, the Sacred Temple. All things being equal, inner healing was achieved. I think you might need to forgive your guides for a necessary lesson that sucked inside out while it was going on. Which can happen, it can happen. We're going to leave this off with a soul helper. Any closing thoughts on this one? As always, number 4 went in a weird direction, because there is no who. They're not going to discuss that. You may get an apology. It also may simply be that your guides apologize for the difficulty of the lesson, and the eternal love is the love of the divine. That you never have to think that the divine has abandoned you. There's a reason for the difficulty of a lesson. And when people say everything happens for a reason, please, it's misinterpreted. Everything that happens can with it carry something that is a vital life lesson if we will look for it. So there is reason, as in logic, that we can look for in everything that happens that will teach us a lesson. Versus the crap that comes to you is always brought to you as, it only, like, it builds in severity and momentum the more resistant we are to learning something. And I'm a master of that because I'm really hard to, like, I am just a really difficult person to get through to. People who read for me, there's really only one person who can read for me effectively, and that's Jacob. And he's always the guy who's on my podcast so often. He is always the person who is telling me, like, your guides are really hard to deal with. It's like, yeah, I know, I think they might be Marines or something, because they are hardcore. I have a bunch of warriors as guides, and I have other guides as well, but like I deal with archangels a lot, and they're also a form of warrior. I make my lessons harder by being so resistant to learning sometimes. Re-energize in the natural world, that's a grounding energy. With to conform is to die inside, be brave, and be yourself. You're being formed into a very independent person as well, which is very necessary to your life's purpose and your life's journey. And even if they're difficult lessons, I think you need to forgive your guides almost more than you need to forgive anybody else. You may have to forgive the divine. In terms of like that person who may have been thwarting you, like the person, like just let that go as understanding that if it helps you at all to know, it must have driven them nigh on insane that literally nothing they could do seemed to touch you. Because I think at first they thought it meant that you were super duper evil. And as like time went on, it began to occur to them, oh, it might be the opposite, which would have been like a really difficult realization. So have some compassion for that person who wanted to blame you for things in their own life, rather than learning their own lessons, okay? And the person you need to forgive appears to be the actual divine, because please understand, you're not being blamed for anything. But if a lesson was brought to you in an incredibly difficult form, with the suspension of ego and not defining your entire existence by how much it has hurt, and that's a difficult place to get to, but taking that perspective, that is ego death, stepping outside of your personal pain and looking at a situation from a remove to be like, well, okay, greater perspective, what's going on here? The lesson that was brought to you with so much pain is sometimes brought to you because it was very difficult to teach you something. Now, there are exceptions to that. I am not talking about somebody's 5-year-old dying of cancer being a lesson. That is about the frailty of human existence and people only having a finite amount of time, and the fact that great love, there is unfortunately the opposite energy in that tremendous love. And we do have genetics and we do have frailty, and people get a finite time. That is not a lesson. That is simply the frailty of human existence. Sometimes other people's choices will cause us great pain, and there is no lesson. Not everything happens for a reason, honest to goodness, on that level. But we can find a lesson about how to be the best version of ourselves and the most evolved version of ourselves, even in our greatest pain. And so try to forgive the divine for the difficulty of your journey. Some of it is just part of being alive. And then some of it may be that there was resistance on multiple fronts to learning difficult lessons that were the only thing that might free people from toxic cycles. Okay? Do those cord cuttings and do those parasite removals and vampire removals, because it may have attracted an energy that is feeding on it and perpetuating it. Because you may be sitting there going, I have let go. Why are you talking about this? Do those to make sure any residual energies are released, okay? Take care, be well. That was your, as always, strange reading. Pile number 4, you're the Enigma group. You were just the Enigma group. Take care, be well.